Johnson, and this is Focus on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, mountain back to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Pocondre, to educate, elevate, and promote. Talk about home affairs, hey, in diaspora, current affairs, hey, reliable information, history, talking about culture, hey, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jar.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another edition of Tough Talking Thursday on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jar, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition of Tough Talking Thursday, we're going to be discussing two very important issues. Number one, the University of Liberia gets a new president after maybe 3 to 4 months of search, and the university has been closed for a little bit now. We now have a new president. Also, the Capitol Hill fire, the fire at the Capitol building has been ruled as arson by the police. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Let me welcome Dr. George Williams. Dr. Williams, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Dennis. It's always uplifting and rewarding to be on your show to discuss issues, affecting Liberia. This is our own little way of contributing to the national discourse and helping our government make the necessary progress that's needed to move the country forward. I'm also happy to be in company of Dr. Golafali, an academic giant in his own spheres of education, and we're always happy to learn from each other.
Thank
Great
you.
to be here.
Let me welcome the chemist, Dr. Golafale. Dr. Golafale, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mr. Jai. Thank you, Dr. Williams. It's been a while. I haven't been on the show, and glad to see my brother Ahmed, Mr. Salif. I'm grateful to be on this show to discuss something that is very relevant to the future of Liberia, the University of Liberia having a new president. And I'm looking forward to a very fruitful and friendly discussion. Thank you.
Let me mention that Dr. Williams is an educator. Also, Dr. Golafale Kim is an educator. He was at my daughter's school, Kennesaw University. And he's been involved with the University Consortium right here based in Atlanta, and also the University of Liberia. I was here when Saki came I will not talk when your neck was long, but he was here to study at Clark Atlanta, and now he's done. Let me also welcome our governance ways. The man who, when you say law, he gets small there. You say education, he gets small there. Foreign diplomacy, small there. So he's all over, man. Let me welcome our governance consultant, executive director of the Liberia LGJI, Mr. Admiral Sally. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Dennis. Happy New Year to my co-panelists, Dr. Gula Fali, Dr. Wa Williams, and our viewers and followers. Thank you. It's always an opportunity to be here with these smart people to learn from them and contribute in the public square of our country, politics, and many other things. Now we can hear you, Dennis.
Let me welcome all our viewers from all over the world. If it is Thursday, it's time to talk tough. So welcome to Tough Talking Thursday. And the university, a lot of people apply to work at the university to be the president. And I have few names here. And we are also expecting Dr. Edison Pajibo. He's in Ghana. He's one of those who was interviewed for the job. He didn't get it. We want to hear from him what the process, what it looked like and what he thinks about the selection. Hopefully, we're going to get Dr. Pajibo. But let me first, before we start the conversation, here's a list of those who apply. Levi B. Zangai, John Gibson Kekpo, Sewulu Soma, John S. Flomo Jr., John T. Wulu Jr., Joseph T. Isaac, Edison D. Pajibo, Anthony A. Cannon, Joseph Boulder, Bleedy Stem, Alfredo Sigbe, J. Hilary Boti Jr., Moses Moro Zena, Lila Mapayan, Coyote Samuel Adike, Emmanuel F. Bailey, Peter S. Humphrey, J. Kakula Fode, Momolo S. Massacre, Edward S. Ford, Robert Asante, and Shelton Brady. I know some of you know some of these people, but before we talk about we get to the new president, let's just talk about the University of Liberia a little bit. It's been some time now. We've heard they were looking for a new president. Dr. Conta was there. They were going to have a PhD program. The university had been closed. There had been some issue with the faculty and everything. Let me start with you, Dr. Gula Fale. Give us a little. You've been involved with the university for a long time now. How is LU doing?
Well, unfortunately, I haven't been active with the university activities for uh, a little over 3 years because of my work, but I've been following. And so I wish we had someone who is actively involved with the system right now to be on. But what I can say here is that I'm very glad that the university and has found a new president, someone to lead the future of the university. And I'm thankful that the president was took his time to make this appointment, and I think he was on point with the caliber of person he appointed as president. And I'm looking forward to discussing. And what I bring here is to discuss about what I expect of this person, what I know her to be, and that's my contribution I can give for now.
Thank you, Dr. William. When you think university president, what are your expectations? What should a university president look like?
Well, when
Is
Dr.
he
William,
on?
unmute yourself, please.
I think it's background. Yeah. Okay.
I think you are muted. Your background could be interfered. You can unmute, please.
All right. So as far as a university president is concerned, I'm sure the context of your question is what caliber individual
Right.
should have the university. Every university has its own context. Uh, the UL, unlike many other institutions around the world, the US has its own unique set of issues. And why we applaud the president for finally making a decision in terms of who heads the university. Um, there are, in terms of considerations, there are a lot of issues that I'm not sure should have been placed in the hands of whoever was being selected to lead the university. Some things are basic. Some things should not be left to the incumbent to tackle, especially those that surround how the incumbent, what framework, legal framework that keeps the incumbent in office, what latitude and flexibilities do they have. And so my hope was that the interim team would have done some work, especially regarding the university charter and the responsive roles and responsibilities of the president, the vice president. As it stands, the university has 9 vice presidents. 9. My hopes were that those things would have been addressed prior to the selection and identification of a UL president. So those things haven't been done. We have a new president who uh, I'm told, and I don't know her directly, but I've read her profile. It's pretty rich. I mean, anyone going to the university ought to have, or at least have a minimum uh, level of experience as the lady just selected. So um, the question is, as far as the matrix used to select a a president of the university, I am not sure what those variables are. The little we've heard are pretty important, but are they enough to position the university in moving not just the institution forward, but the nation forward? Because the university is not just does not just operate in isolation of the rest of society. That institution is a major transformative institution for national development. And whoever heads it must come with a mindset that they're not just running a university or an educational institution, but a social transformational institution as well. And so, understanding, you ask the question, who should be president of the university? Anyone going to the university must be someone who understands clearly the nuances and dynamics of Liberian sociology. The current president has worked in the country for what, since 2010, I believe. Saki, correct me if I'm wrong. She's worked back and forth, and
Since
that's pretty
2009.
good. Since 2009, she's worked back and forth, so she has a good she has an appreciable level of understanding. But has she ran any Liberian organization over the time, so much so that she understands how these things work? There's the political angle, there's the sociological angle, there's the economic challenges that she has to deal with. Are we putting all of this on a lady who uh, I'm not sure? I'm hoping and trusting that she can carry the weight, so that I don't monopolize the conversation. Let me stop here and then we can
Yeah,
contribute further.
thank you. Mr. Saliva had the honor of teaching at the University of Liberia. And so you're pretty familiar with what goes on there, what some of the challenges are, and the opportunities.
Mm.
Talk to me about, what challenges a new president of the university, regardless of who she will face on day one, and what are some of the opportunities that we can turn to gold.
Well, thank you, Dennis. I think we can start with the opportunities. First, the university is overcrowded. And this is an institution that, according to many scholars and historians, was built for no more than 2,500 students, no more than 3,000 students. But now you have over 25,000, if not more. And the country, this is, the universities exist in context, right? In societal context, they have specific roles: knowledge production, innovation, and they also have a social function, where people go engage in, in intellectual activities, research, and innovation. And so the context is Liberia is a youthful country, as they say. All the data we look at says that is majority of the population is less than 25, the age of 25. They honor the age of 25, if not less, than younger than that. And so the opportunities that you have a population, a youthful population that's hungry for knowledge, the university can play a major role in educating the next generation of Liberians who will build the country, who will develop the country, who will compete regionally, internationally, and so on. The opportunities, you may say, we're in a 21st century. We're in a sort of mass communication, mass production of knowledge world, where social media, mass media, and so there are all kinds of possibilities in terms of how you run a university, how you educate a student body, and so on, how you market a university, how you bring it to par, to regional, international level. So those are the opportunities. The challenges are mammoth. The challenges are they're insurmountable. It doesn't matter who the president is. The president does not have the magic wand to address some of the problems that I saw. Now, I've been involved with the university not only as a teacher, but I led, contributed to raising books and research resources, particularly for the law school. More than $500,000 worth of books that we deliver, a container full of brand new books in 2011 when Dean Jala was there. I went to the law school. He almost threw me out of his office. He said, many people come from America, they sit here and promise things and they don't do anything. But when the container arrived in the country, he called me and said, young man, we had 10 Liberians like you. This country will be better. But that was the beginning of my involvement. When I went to work in Liberia, I sought permission from the institution I was working for to teach there. So I was an adjunct lecturer at a graduate school. I saw many things. I mean, you can, sometimes I don't know where to start from, right? You look at a curriculum of different departments. I didn't teach in the undergraduate. I learned of some of the problems, but students who came to my program, and I taught there for 6 years, who came to my classes were woefully underprepared. I would say 90% of the people who came to get a master's degree, participate in a master's program. For example, a lot of them couldn't do basic research, didn't have knowledge of basic documentation and citation methods, not to talk of writing, university level writing. I'm not here to talk down, but it's just a reality I'm talking about. I mean, to the extent we had to establish a writing lab, Kofi Annan Institute for Conflict Transformation, where I brought in people from the U.S. Embassy, UN people, other Liberian professionals to help. All right. And then look at the faculty itself. A university, what makes a university to stand out is the faculty. The quality of the faculty, the qualification, the experience of research. What sort of grants are they receiving because of that research? How much have they published? Peer review publications and things like that. We lack that. I mean, Dr. Golafale and Dr. Williams can speak to that, right? But those are things that I saw. And then the physical plant of the university, the basic things that could have been done, like painting, just facing the street, the pavement, chairs and so on, classroom, all of these things that I believe that we ourselves could easily do and give the institution a facelift. We couldn't do that, other than what the Chinese did at Fender. The main campus itself, it's just sitting there, being abandoned essentially, and people are just there every day, just doing what they can do. So from faculty, quality of faculty, we can talk about that. The curriculum I know I was involved in reviving the department, that I thought that the curriculum and some of the programs that we, that department was delivering to students, uh, and many more, lack of grants, lack of resources, the infrastructure, just technological means of learning and knowledge production and so on. All of that a university lacks. So any president, anyone who dare take on that role, I'm telling you, I'm not saying it's impossible. Maybe this is the time the government is now ready to invest in the university, to focus on the university. Otherwise, it will be a challenge.
Thank you. Let me go back to Dr. Gula Fale. Uh, let's be, transparent about this. The appointment of the new president has sparked debates in many corners. Some are saying no way, some are saying yes way, right? So Dr. Gula Fale, and a lot of people like me, I don't know her prior to her appointment. And so that has been maybe the challenge, and the government did not even maybe try to prepare the ground before throwing her out there. Dr. Golafale, you've known Dr. Mapayan for some time now. Tell us a little bit.
Thank you, Jai, and thanks to the my colleagues here for their points well raised. I want to go back to my experience as a student at the University of Liberia, going back to as far as 2004, when I entered the university to study chemistry. And one of the first experiences I had was a riot, and that riot was mainly because of, I think it occurred in August of 2004. I vividly remember. Uh, at that time, the then chairman of the transitional government, the late Charles Judy Bryan, um, uh, appointed Dr. Al Hassan Contet as president of the University of Liberia after the selection. I mean, the committee selected him, the committee recommendation, and it met stiff resistance from the faculty association. I remember, and one of the things they cited was he was not uh, part of the system, and he was an outsider, and that has, for the last 20 years, we continue to hear the same um, or comments from coming from the university inner cycles about who should run the university. That person has to be an insider or someone who understands the culture and tradition of the university. And I, you know, all due respect to our faculty and people who continue to run with that narrative, and we must respect people's opinion. And I think any institution that values their tradition and culture stand to continue, be vibrant. But how has that helped the University of Liberia in the last decades? These are the questions we have to be asking. Fast forward to Dr. Emmett A. Dennis, peace be to his ashes, one of the most outstanding presidents of the University of Liberia. There were couple of resistance because he did not graduate from the University of Liberia. Oh, he's an outsider. This thing continues coming to our Dr. Lady Mapian. I'll go back to when I met her first in 2009. She visited Liberia. I think that was the first visit. I stand to be corrected, but that was the first time I met her. I was still a student at the University of Liberia. She went for the International Women's Colloquium, and very articulate person, and she met me, and right there the relationship sparked, and ever since we've been working together on small projects related to Liberia. And I in 2010 she went as a Fulbright, on a Fulbright fellowship, I think, and with the interest in developing a gender studies program at the University of Liberia. I think if you saw my Facebook post today, I referenced our interactions. I served as co-facilitator for a lot of the meetings we had. She met with the students group at the main campus under the Palava Hut. she had interaction with these students, and she felt their frustration. She felt the need to really intervene and attach some importance to academic programs like a gender studies program that intersects several disciplines, right? Gender studies is a cross-cutting field. So she decided that she had to go to Fendel and also engage the students in different disciplines to speak to them, go to classrooms, speak to professors. And I was part of her journey throughout. And interestingly, she took along some of her students from Georgia State University. At the time, she was a professor at Georgia State University. So that interaction continued to grow. And in 2012, I think from 2010 to 2012 or between there, she was chair of the board of the University Consortium for Liberia. And if you do not know, the University Consortium is a nonprofit group that it's a consortium of at least 20 universities and colleges in the U.S. and Liberia that work towards fostering our academic, student, and faculty exchange programs between both countries. And that Dr. Mapayan worked. She was chair of the board. Currently, she's now a member of the board of directors. And I was fortunate to have received a scholarship from Clark Atlanta University through the University Consortiums on hard work in bringing together academic institutions in Liberia. And Clark Atlanta visited Liberia through these people's hard work, and also the Consul General then of Liberia to the state of Georgia, Honorable Cynthia Blandford Nash. So fast forward, I was on the board of the University Consortium as well, trying to understand how we can bring support to Liberia, and I was able to work along with Dr. Mapaya as well and a lot of other people. Now, quite recently, if anyone has been following, she was a lead on two USAID funded grants for Liberia. I think at least $5 million grants we received. And that grant is helping in the area of forestry conservation and also faculty development, bringing in, introducing soft skills, developing people that's contributing to the workforce development of Liberia. So in the last 15 years, this lady has contributed immensely to Liberia in a more quiet way. People don't, she hasn't amplified her achievements in Liberia until lately people start to question who is this lady, without knowing, without researching, without asking the necessary questions. Some people are, just concluding that she is new to Liberia. She doesn't understand the country socially. And one of the things that needs to be emphasized here is that identity is a key factor in social cohesion, which I understand. And when people talk about somebody is different, it's coming, we're bringing in a stranger, someone who doesn't understand. That should tell you how much that group of people attach importance to identity. But is that a challenge? Yes, it is a challenge, and that's something she has to overcome. And I look forward to giving more information about her. She's very strong. She's a scholar. She's an active scholar. You can look at her books. She's reading in womanism, a lot of subjects and areas that should be spark the interest of Liberians. That what can we tap? How can we leverage the opportunities, the expertise from this woman and her connections internationally? She's well grounded. She's well respected around the world. She's well respected in her field, and I think Liberians should go deeper to knowing who Dr. Mapaya is instead of just coming up with conclusions without researching who this lady is. Thank
Dr.
you.
William, do you know this lady? Let's say where and what you make of her appointment as president of the university?
So I have never met her. I don't know her. I am impressed by her background. As an educator and a Liberian, I do have reservations with the work of the search committee. I think if out of what 22 people you rejected 18 just by using your metrics of having not having not published anything since acquiring their PhDs. Uh, I would have, I would have, as a member of that committee or chair of that committee, expanded, found a way to expand. But I regress a little bit. I know I hosted two shows uh, in the wake of the establishment of the search committee to look at the UL in transition twice. In one of those shows, I would say that Dr. Christopher Sopa raised a salient point that the conditions under which the search committee had published a the application for the presidency had not spoken to some of the major issues that any well-meaning Liberian wanting to uproot themselves out of wherever they are to go back home and apply for the job, those issues had not been handled. For example, one of the issues was that the search committee, the mechanism for application was not very transparent in terms of opening up. People could not be interviewed from afar. They needed you in Liberia. That was a challenge. One, two, that any well-meaning Liberian who had interest would not take the presidency of the university if the president of the university did not enjoy tenure. The current president, I'm hoping, and I will speak to that, that the current president is going to enjoy benefits that previous presidents never enjoyed. But that says something that the political commitment to making a difference, to supporting the president of the university is going to be benchmarked by this new president. And the presidency of the Republic of Liberia, the visitor's commitment to advancing education at the university is going to be benchmarked by how he supports this current president. And it's going to serve as a milestone for everybody else coming after her. And so, in terms of an opportunity, it's an opportunity for future presidents. I am not so sure that this president, how well meaning she is positioned to handling the challenges at the university. First things first is we have a political climate that has to be changed. The political climate, you have people on the search committee, people who are current administrators at the university who applied for the very same job and they weren't selected. They're still there. They're still there. You have 9 vice presidents at the university. You have deans who too applied and weren't selected. She now has to administrate over those people. That's the first challenge we've posed for her. She has to administrate over those people. The government has not clearly said what the problems were that led to the removal of the previous president, Dr. Nelson. And every functionary of the university under Dr. Nelson is still in place. And we're bringing in a new president. So, what were we intending to change by the removal of Dr. Nelson? Okay. And so now we have Dr. Mapanya coming in. Now, as a nationalist, and I don't apologize for it, I think the president's office did not do him justice. He hasn't done himself justice by appointing a non-national, even though she's married to a Liberian, by appointing a non-national. It doesn't it doesn't matter how pristine her resume is. We, I am not sure, did exhaust the search process enough to have made the conclusions that we've made. And this has been pervasive over a lot of the appointments the president has made. We've not exhausted. And so, as a Liberian educator, I feel a slap in my face that the presidency haven't had not exhausted itself. They haven't spoken to people, even at the level of the University Alumni Association here in the US. There were talks going on. We were talking to other Liberians in the diaspora. What can you guys do? Dr. Connett. Augustine Connor, in the office of the president, his political advisor, is an academician himself from Morehouse. And there are lots and lots of others. Dr. Collison, Dr. Brewer at Morgan State. There are too many of other Liberians who could have been given the chance. Who could have been given the chance? And I hold no beef with Dr. Mapayan. She's been selected. But for me, it's as a Liberian who believes that the university is not just another tertiary institution. The university is pivotal in where our country goes. We grew up in a society where instructors from the university drove the national conversation. And the idea that what Dr. Mapaya brings to the table that other Liberians cannot, because generally that's the thinking, that there aren't Liberians around who could do that, I disagree. The young Liberians, hey, I ran a local Liberian nonprofit from 2006 to 2013. I raised nearly $500,000 in programs. There are guys on the ground, the Eddie Jawolo, the Malcolm Joseph. They're civil society leaders. Between 2006 and now, those boys have raised close to over $1 million, undertaking programs from different donors. There are too many Liberians out there. I am flabbergasted with the whole approach, this missionary approach to solving Liberia's problems. We're always looking outside of our borders, looking outside of our community to solve our problems so we can solve those problems ourselves. The presidency has not identified what the issues are with the university. And bringing in this lady and subjecting her to the challenges she's going to face, I am truly praying that she succeeds. But even as Liberians, Ahmed, you just listed it out. Saki just listed it out. All of the challenges that we know. Do we believe that someone of the caliber of Dr. Mapaya can succeed when we still have the foundation,
Right.
quote unquote, the foundation of the personnel still in place?
And Dr. William, before I call on Mr. Salif, you don't. If you say someone the caliber of Dr. Mapayan, you don't know her. So when you say the caliber of Dr. Mapayan, what do you mean? What because you don't know, right?
I don't know. And I'm praying that she has the wherewithal to remove the carpet from under the feet of many of the practices that are going on at the university. She has the muscle to institute credentials checks, as the faculty have always called for. She has the wherewithal to not necessarily have to climb the Minister of Finance steps to make sure that salaries are paid. She has the strength to withstand the pressure from the capital to ensure that members of the capital are not just enrolling in school because they're in the legislature, or political parties cannot just send the surrogates to the university that has led to the overpopulation of the university. I am praying
Thank
that
you.
she overcome those challenges. She comes from an environment where things are structured. And in Liberia, you have to come from the gutter to be able to deal with them from that level. And so I am praying. I'm happy for the fresh perspective that hopefully she brings to the table. It is the strength. It is the strength that's needed. The same strength Jesus used to whip the market people out of the church. I'm hoping she's strong enough because Liberia is a tough animal.
Right.
We are tough animals.
Thank you.
We need people who understand us clearly to be able to be resilient enough to lead the change and the charge.
Thank you. Mr. Salif, let's cut to the chase. There are many who say this lady doesn't understand the complexities of the University of Liberia or the day-to-day even Liberia as a whole. They say, come stay with me and, come visit me and come stay with me. They're two different things, right? And people look
Mhm.
at how it has been maybe soft. People always like this macho kind of thing, maybe. So that's some of the thing. And that, hey, this is the nation's highest institution of learning. There's pride in it. Why not Liberia?
Mhm.
Those are the questions that people are raising. Do you
Yeah, yeah.
what's
No,
your take on all these things that are I don't know, maybe, unlike Saki, you probably don't know as well.
no, I have not met her, Dr. Maprian. Is that you pronounce her name? I've not met her. I've read her CV. I've done my own research on her work, and on her publications.
Has she?
Her
I don't think she has run any university before.
No, it doesn't look like. From what I've read, she has not run a higher institution of learning of this level or this caliber. She's run the Wesleyan Center according to her CV and what I've read, and she's
Not,
well.
not, not even a
She's
department, probably.
It was not clear to me
Yeah, I
whether
didn't see
she
that.
she was chair of a department. No, and yeah, she's well published. She in gender studies, womanism. She is a scholar, very like Dr. Saki said, very active scholar. Seemingly, from what I've read, I do not know her personally, nor do I have to know her. What I've read is she's married to a Liberian, and thus her interest in Liberia and has been to Liberia, like Dr. Saki laid out for us here tonight. Look, a president of the university is the chief executive officer of the university. Some of the concerns I have read and on social media, our own Dr. Abdullah Dukle with his random thoughts, where he outlined and others have raised about this appointment, is that look, what I'm hearing in there and reading is a matter of pride and the symbolism of it. What does it project about the whole country, not just the university, about a people? Right? There's someone said to me, "You will never go to Ghana and see an American or a British citizen there running a university." Other people started posting things that, oh, this South African is president of this university in the UK. It happens that South African is an alumnus of that university, holds dual citizenship, and those kinds of arguments. So to me, um, people are really speaking of, what does it say about the coloniality of it almost, right? What scholars call coloniality. Like, okay, so we look outside, we cut off ourselves from mother universities, if you will. Look, if you study the history of universities and higher education in Africa, and I'm doing doctoral work. It's focused on comparative international development education. So I've read some work along that, right? Where they talk about, if you look at the University of Sierra Leone, Furobe College was linked to a university in the UK. University Ibadan, it was the University of London. Ibadan was a university college. So many universities, particularly in British colonial history of Africa. So African educators, higher education educators, and education administrators try to cut off from those colonial past in order to take education, higher education, in their own hands, learn from others, peers and scholars from other continents, but really to showcase their own training, their own expert, their own scholars, and say, look, we have matured. We can run our own system. We can run our own educational system and partner with those other institutions. So it's about nationalism as well. It's about cultural pride. That's what I've read and heard in the various debates that you've just raised, Dennis. I'll end with this. A president of a university, like I said, is the chief executive officer of that university. They are responsible to drive the vision of the university, the goal of the university, to ensure the mission is implemented and they live up to the mission, and all kinds of other responsibilities of a university, like raising funds, fundraising, raising grants, faculty chairs, and all kinds of endowments, if possible, research initiation, recruiting qualified faculty members to come to the university, to make the university a par with regional standards, regional accreditation, other international accreditation, and so on. So many things, right? Infrastructure, fundraising, innovation. So these are the things you're looking at. The question is, those who applied for this job, Liberians and Dr. Maprian, do we have other Liberians who are as well published, who have done extensive research, but also have held administration roles in running higher education? Because at the end of the day, you are an administrator. You are there running an institution. You're not necessarily, you may teach, but that's not your primary job. You oversee the academics and all of that, like I've talked about. Dr. Moses Zena, I saw his name, he applied. As far as I know, Dr. Zena, an excellent scholar, taught University of Cape Coast in Ghana, agriculture, agri-science, agri-extension, something like that. I believe he's published. I'll have to, graduate of University of Wisconsin. I saw Dr. Pajibo. There were others that I don't know, right? And then there are a few there that I know who I don't think necessarily qualified as well. So there's that debate. People are saying, well, these Liberians, if the government is willing to invest in the university, truly invest and hold these people accountable, couldn't we find Liberians who apply, who in the region and even in the diaspora, Liberian who could do this, right? But at the same time, others have argued that, look, universities around the world, they go out there and look for the best who can come and run their institution. Here in Minnesota, my own alma mater, the two universities I attended at Hamlin University, they picked someone, though it's the same country, someone from North Carolina, University of Minnesota, someone from California, a president from Michigan, right? They didn't insist it must come from this particular state, but it's the same country. You could say in that respect. So I think the debate is good. It's good that attention is coming to the university, and there are legitimate questions that people are raising, that we should pay attention to those questions, but also in the context, in the grand scheme of things, looking at the state and affairs of the university, the deplorable nature that this university is in and where it ought to go. So perhaps the decision was this new president will help us with fundraising and international attention, international credibility, and bring some of that experience. Who knows what the criteria were for this search committee?
And someone is asking me, say, are you for or against? I don't have much information to be for, but let me end with this, Mr. Salif. Do you think that if maybe the government or the search committee or the board, if people have given us more information, that is, what exactly does Dr. Mapayan bring, that the others didn't have?
Right.
Or maybe try to talk a little bit about why her, right? Would that help?
Yeah, I think that even at the president's level, just not just the search committee or the board of trustees, you have to be transparent with the citizens, the country, because this is a national institution. The University of Liberia, the symbolism of it, people who graduated from that school, the memories they carry, their children, the legacy of that institution, whatever it is today, it's really something that is dear and near to people's hearts. So I think, in my view, that committee or even the university board of trustees and whoever the authorities were should have been a little more transparent, a little more open with the public, with the whole process, who applied, their qualification, and where the process was, why this person over that person, not this other person. And that political communication aspect of it to have sort of foreshadow for this crisis communication of sort that we're all discussing now. So I think if they've been that transparent, perhaps the president should have even addressed the nation about this. This is this important because you're talking about an institution whose responsibility it is to educate those who will run the country, those who have run this country historically, who are running the country now, and the future generation.
Thank you. And like even maybe I understood that there are 3 persons' names that were submitted to the president. At least if we know that,
right? Yeah,
because it's possible, and because we don't know those, so there are a lot of things people are saying that in fact, was this lady in the run? Was she part of the names submitted? Did they come? Dr. William, before I go to Saki, the fact that it is politics. Dr. Ducler wrote in his random thought that before, at a time of Dr. Anthony Brown Sherman, it was like the president was aligned with the faculty, the students, and what really the university stood for. But since the days of President Doe, it's been like you have to be politically aligned with the president. So that I remember when Dr. Stephen Yackerson was appointed, it was like, I mean, there was riot. Yeah, people didn't like it. That it was someone who wanted the president want to represent his interest. Do you think the political nature of how the appointments with President Bouakai has been, and also the length of time it took to come up with the president of the university, I think like 3 or 4 months, and there has been crisis at the university, the faculty, the students, and the university itself has been closed. Do you think these things kind of bring about, distrust with the system, and also have some question, raise some doubts and question as to the uh, the transparency, and also doing this that is free and fair?
So, Dennis, I go back to hammering home the point that even Ahmed alluded to. There is an absence of strategicness from the office of the president in terms of the selection process. In terms of the selection process, um, again, this is with no bias to Dr. Mapaya. She has the credentials and the experience as an educator. There is no bias towards her with these comments. The bias goes to the office of the president. The presidency has, in so many ways, have to define which direction they hope to take society. And by so doing, haven't set the basis and a framework within which the new president ought to operate. As we speak, uh, my little nonprofit has forwarded to the Senate a bill requesting the autonomization of the selection process, taking it out of the office of the presidency. It helps to depoliticize in all public tertiary institutions. The intent is to depoliticize the selection process or the appointment process, strengthen the board of those universities to enable them on their own, outside of the political influence, to select, identify, and select their own president. That speaks exactly to the question you asked. Because so far we're hearing a lot of things that Dr. Mapayan's husband is a very good friend of Prince Moi. Prince Moi is the prime minister behind the scenes, prime minister and senator. I don't want to lift those issues because I don't have the facts as they are. But if you have a framework where the universities outside of the presidency can identify the very best people, it gives the president of those institutions the leeway to innovate, the leeway to be more productive, as the case might be. And so, again, there are lots and lots of problems. A lot of these problems at the university, and I dare say, well, a lot of other organizations in the country are structural. They're structural. And as soon as we can address the structural defects, we're able to address many of the problems we have. Yeah. And so uh, we're hoping that the Senate will see the draft bill that we forwarded to them. They should get it this week. And as soon as they return to work, we'll begin to call those we know on the education committee to see how we can put this. But there are lots of other things that should go along uh, in terms of helping to strengthen the structures. But Dr. Sawyer, in one of his publications, talk about demystifying the powers of the presidency, and that one way we can demystify it is to reduce the powers of the president. The president got way too much to do. He cannot appoint every Tom, Dick, and Harry across government. That's way too much. That's way too
Yeah.
much. Yeah, that's
Thank
way
you.
too much. Yeah, so that's one way we're hoping that these institutions can be strengthened and that someone like Dr. Lafayette can work independently in an environment where free of, hopefully free of political influences.
Thank you. Dr. Saki, do you have a sense of what, like in this case, let's say the search committee, the board, or the president, do you have a sense of wh- who or what they were looking for in the new president? That's number one. And number two, what are the issues at the university that were identified that this new president supposed to be fixing? Eh, do we know, or was that really public?
Well,
Because
thank
if we
you.
know all these criteria, then we can see, okay, this person fit this or doesn't.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Jai. I think I've been listening to my colleagues, and they made some very salient points. And three things I gathered from them are one, uh, the issue of neocolonialism, the foreign involvement in our education system that has to be addressed. And I think at some point, Mr. Salif said something about what foreign, what possibly she could bring to the table in terms of her experience and her international connection. I think these are things that we have examples to. I will cite the late Dr. Emmett Dennis. He came from Rutgers with solid experience in academia and leading departments and colleges. And when he became president, he in at his inauguration, which I attended, one of the things he said was that he wanted to create a student-centered environment. And what he did was that he worked along with the student community. He involved them into the running of the university, and he also empowered them through student exchange programs. And I can say the University Consortium of Liberia, which Dr. Mapayan was part of as one of the board members, facilitated some of those, exchange programs, a lot of them. And our student leaders were able to go to other countries and experience what other students leaders do, through cultural exchange of ideas. It wasn't intended to brainwash people or the students that you cannot continue in your student politics, but to just see the different side of the world, what students do and how they can, emulate same or have some exchange of ideas on how they can create a welcoming and safe learning environment. That's one. And that's one of the things that Dr. Dennis brought to Liberia. And he came from a structured system. I think it was Dr. Williams who talked about someone coming from a structured system. It's not possible to succeed in a place like Liberia that you have to have come from a broken system. I think I seriously disagree with that point because Dr. Dennis is a key example of coming from a structured system where he came in and he left a legacy. He tried to strengthen faculty, bring students into leadership, take them abroad, take faculty abroad, improve our faculty from just bachelor's degree level to at least a master's degree level. And today we can boast of some. I'm proud to say that I'm one of the products of Dr. Dennis's vision, to produce a PhD in chemistry, through his involvement and connections, international connection and networking. That's what foreign people bring in. A lot of, examples of foreigners heading institutions in a global network, the ability to enhance the
Are you
reputation of the
are you saying
institution.
Dr. Dennis is a foreigner, or
No,
I
no.
didn't get that?
He was he was he came from a structured system. I was responding to what Dr. Williams talked about, someone coming from a structured system versus someone coming from a broken system, which he thinks, and which I respect his view that someone who have had an experience in a broken system like Liberia or the university has that, understanding of running a system like that, which I disagree with. We've tried it, we've seen it, right? The
That
last
wasn't
four
that
years,
wasn't my point
the
totally
last
though.
yeah. I'm just saying I made note of what you said. I just trying to give my own point. Now, your question about the next thing was about transparency, which I gathered from the two gentlemen here. I think it's important to be transparent, which we are all, we're not aware of what yardsticks were used to do this election and to eliminate candidates who apply. It's important. It's important that we are having this conversation. I think it will go a long way in how we can push towards making our university autonomous, making giving them the power and taking it from the presidency. I've always said it, when you politicize education, you erode freedom of expression, you erode freedom of academic freedom. And that is something that is impacting the University of Liberia. We need to take that power from the presidency. We need to depoliticize. I'm very in favor of that. And that's something I've said over and over. Politics can erode academic freedom. And the last thing I heard about, if I do recall, I think I've covered the three things that I listened to. And in response to your question, Mr. Ja, on sensing who or what they were looking for, I have no knowledge, right, from what specifically the search committee was looking for. Again, it goes back to the transparency, how open the process was, okay, and we have to ask the hard questions, okay, and how open the process was. What was the search committee looking for, and how did they make the selection process? So I cannot go into it without knowing. I think the media has to come in to help us, for them to provide, some details of how they did the selection process, so we can satisfy every side of this whole divide on who should lead a university, whether someone who is quote unquote a foreigner, or someone who is a Liberian. And talking about that, there are a lot of Liberians that are working in academia, head departments, in different countries. So I don't think the issue of having someone, not only, being labeled as a foreigner, not only is she an American, she's been deeply involved in our academic progress. She's been deeply involved in our joining. She is not isolated Liberia or the University of Liberia and just came out of the clear blue sky. She has a deep rooted profile in working in and out of Liberia for the interest of the University of Liberia. I think that is what we should focus on more, on what she brings based on her experience working in Liberia. What can she bring to the table? What can she do? Can she, you know, every one of us are hopeful. Okay, we will lay out our expectations based on her experience, her leadership. I heard someone talking about uh, she did not meet the 5 to 10 years. And I'm not an HR personnel, but I think someone from the with the HR background can tell how you can calculate leadership experience based on the experience, years of work. All those things can be factored in. And just a point of information, she has headed departments, she has headed graduate programs. So we have to go beyond just reading her profile about, oh, she's married to a Liberian. That's her personal life. She has her right to marry to whoever she wants to marry to. But we have to go beyond, just personalizing this discussion to what who this lady really is. What has she done? Let's calculate everything she has done and weigh it. Does that fit into being a president of a University of Liberia? These are the questions that we need to be asking. And finally, I wanted to say, your next question was, uh, what were the issues identified? We all know the struggles of the university, the challenges we've had in the last 5 years, right? When Dr. Dennis was there, next came Dr. Weeks. We dropped the standard. We completely dropped, lowered the standards at the University of Liberia, making with the involvement of the political involvement, and that is something we all want for that standard to be what upped. And that, I think Dr. Mapayan brings that to put us back to a higher standard, right, of leadership. That is what we want, and that is what we're supposed to be applauding this lady for, or the president for his appointment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salif. Let's talk about what Dr. Mapayan bring, or what she should bring, or what the president, the new president, should bring to the table that will help us. Because We all know the University of Liberia, the standard, and I like how Dr. Dukley in his random thought put it, he says, started with Dr. Sawyer. The university needed to open for political reasons so that he
Mhm.
could bring the youth be encouraged. Those, if you are behind the line, we used to call it that time, you are running to Monrovia. I was in Guinea then. I wanted to go back to Monrovia to go back to the university, right?
Mhm.
So, and because of that influx, the standard was lower to accept everybody for that. And since then, the standard keeps going lower and lower. We saw. So, what should a new president bring to the table to help us? And the government is a big part of it because you can't say
Yes.
lip service, right? You can say you're in for education, but then you're giving peanuts. That's
Yeah,
not going
look,
to work.
the university is a state university. It's not a university that's independently endowed, funded by foundations. Like we see other universities that have millions and if not billions of dollars, some do, that are invested in infrastructure, in curriculum development, innovation, faculty development, student exchange programs, so forth and so on, research. We don't have that. And so in our case, in order for Dr. Maprian to succeed, I think the government has to invest heavily in the university because to Dr. Saki's point, Golafali's point, she's coming from a structured environment has international experience and connection. If the if part of the thinking, and I'm not implying that this is why it is, I don't know, I didn't read, but if part of that appeal was that because of her international connection, she would be the one to raise fund. She will be the one to bring money to develop the university. Then it will be a failure on the part of the government, on the part of Liberia, the Liberian state. Yes, a university president should be a chief fundraiser, should be someone who attracts funding to the institution, someone who attracts exchanges, programs, partnerships with other universities, so that our students are exposed, our faculty members are exposed, so that the university is recognized, the university becomes a member and accredited regional, international, all the good things that you need to bring the university, in line with whatever standards we're looking for. That's the job of the university president. But without seed money, major significant funding to really turn this thing around, to transform the university from the physical infrastructure, just some basic things that we know in the 21st century, a university like University of Liberia should have, I don't even want to say smart classroom because we're not even there. The classrooms are dilapidated. But at least have a safe environment where students can learn. The physical plant of the university, paint the place, fix the pavement, the pavement, renovate the buildings, paint the buildings, bring internet on campus. I understand that they try doing that. Automate the university, put it online, make learning accessible. These are the kinds of things that she'll be dealing with. But then you have the politics, the student politics, faculty politics, right? Where people started saying, well, if they're paying her more than they had paid other previous presidents, then that's a problem because the University Faculty Association will go on strike, they'll do go slow action. It'll be like, okay, we're here, we've been struggling, carrying on the university, and we're not recognized, we're not respected. And these are the kinds of things that we've been hearing and reading, right? So to answer your question, what should she bring? People say you can't give what you don't have. She's bringing for the things for which she was hired, right? She is she's an excellent scholar. It looks like she's run programs. She's been part of a major, university institutions that we're learning from Dr. Golafali, and we've read, her CV. She's been department chair, head of graduate programs, and so she's come from a structured context and has a very good sense of what a university should be like. a national university like the University of Liberia. Some of the basic essential things it ought to have to function well. I think that's where her focus will be. But if you go in there and you don't have the resources to implement the vision of the university, you have a challenge. I don't care how brilliant you are. I don't care what kind of where you come from, you have a major challenge. So when we talk about the context and the cultural problems and the challenges, those are some of the things, right? People make it impossible for you to govern. They did it with Dr. Dennis, they did it with Arson, they did it with, so it's, the go slow action. All five will say, we're not teaching, we're not going to put our chalk down. What do? You cannot run the university when you don't have teachers. And then you have a problem with people who have been in the system who have no business being there. Maybe they're not really qualified to even teach. And they're there. They've been producing pamphlets and they don't publish, they don't write anything, they don't do their own research, and they're just teaching our leaders. These are the people. So if she starts to audit this system, that's the subside of things. She starts to audit the curriculum, look at the departments, look at the faculty member who's teaching what. What is your credential, your qualification? Let me see your degree. Let me see what you've published before. How are you? These kinds of questions are tension areas, right? People will start saying, "Oh, okay, now they brought this. Well, woman here. I'm just saying they're like brown way. I don't know for a fact. They brought this woman here. That's when they will start singing the foreigner thing. They'll start saying an outsider thing. And now she's here. She doesn't know her system because they don't want change. They want the status quo to be what it is. It should continue that way. Maybe she will discover corruption. When they sent $3 million to the university, someone said to me, that small school, $3 million, you do a lot. At least pin the place, fix, but then where does the money go? How much are you paying faculty members? There's so much you use. And I said, well, that's a drop in the ocean, that amount you're calling to me. But then she will start saying, okay, let's revisit the vision. Let's strategize around this, around that. And to do that, you have to audit, like I'm saying, all kinds of things, and that will certainly produce tensions. And so those are some of the challenges I see. Not to say that, of course, those don't come with opportunities. Of course, this is maybe, as they say, this will be a major inflection point place for the university, for Dr. Mapaya to come to really help us bring innovation, new thinking, invite new people in from some of our connections and so on. Who knows? Maybe we'll come back here 10 months from now and be talking really happy with our performance and where the university is going, right? I look forward to that.
Thank you. And I must salute her courage, right? To even accept a job like that, because even being born, behind God's holy back in Sino and coming to
and you come to Atlanta and then you want to take a job.
I am terrified when I look at the university campus. When I was there 2017, I mean, it's like they take some zinc shacks and just build them everywhere on the campus. What are that Kobo shop, whatever they're doing. The bathroom, I mean, you can't even enter. The building all molded. I mean, this place is just bad. My son would say nasty, right?
Yeah.
And to accept to go teach them, we look at, it started with this whole failing the entrance because people are not prepared from high school to get there. Or we had the door situation where you didn't go to school and then time for graduation, you are graduating.
Then we've seen that, right? That's what I'm talking about. She has to audit to lock all those loopholes.
And audit, it reminded me about Funati Kofa.
Okay, let's not go to Funati Kofa. Yeah, we're talking about institutional organizational audit, not necessarily financial fiscal audit. We're looking at systems and so forth and so on. Look, Dennis, sorry, you raised a critical point. The average salary remuneration for university presidents. I mean, people say don't compare with America. I don't know. Maybe we should look at regionally. This is more than $2 million. It's 200. What was it? 231. Yeah, people. It's crazy money. She's qualified for that kind of compensation. So you bring her to the University of Liberia. She agrees to accept it. It's amazing. How much you going to pay her? and then you try to pay her a little more, it produces tension. So that crisis management, I think, is something that we ought to watch for. We don't wish for anything to escalate. We really wish her well and congratulate her, and want to see where she will take the university.
And as I was listening to these problems, I mean, how can you look at these? I mean, talking about student politics, that
Yeah,
alone, that's another animal. I spoke with Dr. Pajibu, who also was in the run. He said that's number one thing he was going to get rid of, that student politics, where people come and they just feel that they should appoint the president, the minister, everybody. The students should be doing that. I asked one, why don't you even advocate for internet, for library? I asked my nephew who was going there, send me the syllabus. I can give you some books. He doesn't have a syllabus. I'm like, how? Don't you ask? He doesn't even know that they should give it to him,
man.
right?
Look,
But they don't advocate
Can,
for those problems. They're talking about who is appointed finance minister. That's
well,
kind of
student politics. I am not an alumnus of the University of Liberia, right? But student politics is good if it's good. Uh, this is where you learn leadership. All universities have student governments. You
right.
put pressure on the university. You hold the university accountable. You student affairs. You look after the affairs of the students. You learn how to speak publicly, how to be a leader. A lot of them around the world emerge on the national stage if it's done well. But what is a negative and toxic about our context is constantly the national politics and politicians are using this student campus politics to disrupt everything else. That disruptiveness, I think, that's what makes it so toxic.
can I come and I chip in a little bit
Yeah,
on
yeah, sure.
something? Yeah, I kind of look at it differently in terms of not just putting all of the weight on Dr. Mapayan. I think the challenges faced by the university should be a shared responsibility, of everyone. And if it requires institutional audit of the university, it has to be something that will gradually, slip into the running of the university. For
But she
example,
would drive that. She would
how
drive that
yes,
thing.
yes, she's gonna drive that, but it has to be a shared responsibility of the supporting arms, like different the vice president for academic affairs, going to be driving some
And that's the thing, Saki. Not to cut you off because
yeah.
it's like I don't know if she will recruit her own team or what is going to be done. Dr. William talked about the 9 vice president. When I read a paper from the university faculty, they say they have 20 vice presidents. So it's like you have all these things. The system is just chaotic, and then you take someone is not is like is and just put out there, right? It's like you didn't even take bath. You just dress in clean clothes.
I don't agree with that. I
Mhm.
think as experienced Dr. Mapanya is, she weighed all of the challenges facing the university to take that job. As I don't know who said that she's brave, and to go out there in that environment. And a lot of people talking about how the student politics is going to play, which is an important part of our tradition at University of Liberia. We embrace that. That is, a unique part of, growing as a university student. It's just that the toxic part of it is something we need to address seriously for students to understand their core duty.
Yeah,
And
they are
and
throwing
and, and
stones
but
now.
but
It used to be on the campus, but this time they are going out. They are throwing stones. They are black and rolls. It's just toxic.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what we need to work on. And when we look at the cultural context of these things, we've gone through war, and a lot of people are still, in that, have that mindset of being belligerent, and it's hard to just get out of that mindset. But as we progress, I think we're going to see a more responsible leadership under Dr. Mapayan will address those issues gradually. But again, I want to stress that it has to be a shared responsibility. I was talking about like the vice president for academic affairs have to lead the effort to making sure that the teaching faculty is functional. Teachers are well. scrutinized in terms of what they teach. We have to bring in we have to bring in some programs to evaluate instructors to make sure they're teaching, and not only evaluate them to grade them A, B, C, or D, but also enhance their capacity, train them every year in, year out. I taught at Spelman College, Kennesaw State University, at Howard University, and every semester I am being evaluated on my teaching. I speak to my supervisors, my chairs, and it's like going through interview every year in, year out with the faculty. I have a faculty come and without letting me know, they come to sit in my class, and I'm teaching without knowing, just freedom to teach, and they evaluate me. These are things we have to bring in: faculty evaluation, student evaluation, just to make the process transparent, and everybody has to know that it is part of a running of a functional university system.
Yeah.
We have to make sure that the output,
I
our
like that
students,
word, functioning.
yes, that's the thing. In order to restore the system of order at the university, everyone has to be involved, right?
Mhm.
Everyone has to be involved. You have to live by the policy. If not, you cannot teach. If you cannot prepare a syllabus, you cannot prepare your teaching philosophy. You cannot, all these things we have to teach the faculty if they don't know. We cannot expect people who do not know it to get it. That is why the university established what we call the Teaching and Learning Center. Unfortunately, it's not functioning as it's supposed to be, right? And all of these different departments and things have to chip in, right? And university running is a very demanding environment, but one person cannot shoulder everything.
Dr. Golafale,
Yeah,
before you end there, that's why, like, we were also expecting that, like, the 22 people, some of them that were strong, we expect them to, maybe based on the discretion of the university and the president, to absorb them and say, well, you be
excellent.
vice president. But before that, we saw that Dr. Conte appointed all these people. I mean, vice president, department chair, appointed almost everybody. Now, when you bring in Dr. Mampanya, I don't know to what extent is she going to have any impact on the people that are working with her. Maybe not. What do you know?
Well, I'm not too knowledgeable about the hiring process at the university,
Yeah,
but that's
Dr. Kunte
that's that's
appointed a lot of
that's one of the things
associate
that needs to be.
professor, department heads.
Yeah, that is one of the things that needs to be seriously addressed. How they hire, who they hire, what they are supposed to do, what their TOR is, and it has to be institutionalized. It has to be structured on the hiring, like we do here anywhere other universities, right? People go through thorough, vetting process. We evaluate their credentials. We look at their publications. We look at their background, what they've been involved with. There are a lot of issues of people, some of the people that run departments and colleges at the University of Liberia. There are a lot of questions about their reputation. These are things that we'll have to address gradually as we go on. And it's going to be resisted. I know there were issues of credential check, which at some point they halted because, some people felt that their interest, would be hooked up in this whole credential audit thing. And we know for sure on the record some people that have credential issues. They're teaching at the University of Liberia. They've been there for long. We know they did not get the degrees that some of them claim to have, but they are within the university system. And one of the things I need to stress here that you see this level of resistance internally from university, like, oh, this person is outsider, they need an insider. The reason is simple. Or mediocrity has been normalized, and the majority of people in this kind of system, they enjoy it, and they want their own to continue on that whole trend of
Mhm.
normalize. They just normalize mediocrity, so they want to continue. I know I will be higher at some point, and I will sometimes I'll be soft, but the university system is 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 polluted. The University of Liberia is a complex system that is polluted.
It's polluted.
Several areas that are key to the function of the university is being headed by people who encourage, these fraudulent, activities,
Yeah. Criminal activity.
yeah,
Like selling the lab equipment.
exactly. And then having people to graduate without going through the university, all kinds of criminal activities. And one of the things that people have not noticed, when you look in the university policy on promotion is proportional to salary. The more you're promoted, your salary increase. So you see everybody runs for promotion. And one of the key area factors they look at for promotion is publication. And we need to address this seriously. I think it's based on ignorance, lack of knowledge that faculty, academics supposed to publish in reputable journals. They're supposed to publish things that are relevant to the university, and to the nation, things that are issues, research that are funded by the state or something that's of relevance. I have reviewed a lot of publications, and most of them are in these predatory journals, poorly rating, some of them plagiarized, and I've raised the issue among faculty, and a lot of them seem to be okay with it. And surprisingly, I've seen in the last 3 or 4 years, these people are celebrated. They are awarded every year for their scholarly contribution. But go and look at their output. Poorly rating papers in predatory journals. Journals that can be indexed. You can find it on Google. You can find it in Web of Science or Web of Knowledge. There are a lot of databases for scholarly journals. You can't even find them, but they claim to have published. And this something is rampant in the University of Liberia, and people use it as a what criteria for promotion. And then when they're promoted, their salary increase. So these are things we need to address, and we need to be real about it. We can't hide it. We got to put in the faces of these people that look. We have to change the narrative here. We have to practice a quality publication. We have to train our faculty, not only talk about the weaknesses. I'm standing by to help train people how to publish, how to write manuscript, how to focus on how to look for grants, small grants and other things to enhance your research ability, and how to go to conferences, reputable conferences, and present findings, not just to publish mediocre something out there in these poor quality journals that just pay to publish things. But here again, we have to be real, talk the issues, and also help to solve it. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. William, I want you to conclude on this so we can move on to our last topic and bring in our callers. Uh, uh, if you were meeting Dr. Mapanya today, what will you tell her? What would be your advice? If you can unmute, I hope you're not going to scare her.
Firstly, I will congratulate her, like you say, for taking on the courage to run the University of Liberia. Uh, One of the areas, because funding is going to be fundamental in a lot of what she's going to do, uh, is to review this tuition-free policy. I don't think it makes sense uh, in the grander scale of things where the central government is unable to meet the financial need for the university, and yet we're opening our doors, especially at the graduate level, to people who can afford graduate school. Um, Now that we're even moving on to a doctoral program, however that's going to work, I think there needs to be a review of that policy. I would say, you know, cap it at the level of the bachelor's and that be it, and let people pay to acquire um, graduate education, and where necessary, under the late President Talbot, College of Education, College of Forestry, and College of Health Sciences or Medicine, those three areas were free because of the need. So aligning the national needs with the service provided by the University of Liberia is critical in that regard. And I think the government itself needs to go back to the drawing board in terms of that. Dr. Golofali was right. Um Dr. Mapanya is going to drive the change process at the university. It has to be shared with with other functionaries at the university. The Alumni Association, both at home and abroad, have to come in and converge around the need to move forward and how we're moving forward. My only disappointment is that we've not identified national needs that can be serviced by the University of Liberia. That's where we fall short. We're putting all of these expectations on this lady who whose orientation may not, and I use the word safely, may not align with our own expectation of where we think the university and how we think the university can play strategically in the transformation of our country. We're not sure about that. So it is important that the presidency, the office of the president, begin to be more strategic, not just political, but more strategic in these appointments. The University of Liberia is the nation's foremost higher institution of learning. It's not a private school. In a private institution, you can appoint anybody from anywhere. But when it comes to the national university, that's critical in almost everything that we do. National stability, economic development, social cohesion, all of those things are contingent upon how the university is run. And if we don't have someone in there who understands those dynamics, we have a problem. We have a problem. We've only set this lady up for failure. And so the government has done well to identify a president. What the government has also done is to set herself up for greater challenges. Ahmed alluded to the fact that every resource we're going to provide and make available to this new president has to be made available to whoever comes after. Has to be made. So we've set a benchmark. The salary she's going to receive is going to be the salary of subsequent presidents will have to receive. That salary has to also serve, meet the needs of the people she's going to work with. So you have an offer that's already struggling to be paid, who's now going to use the president's pay as benchmark for what they need to be paid. So the government has set itself up, have set itself up for a bigger fight than they can see. And what that tells me is that the office of the president has a problem that needs to be addressed. There is an absence of strategicness in her appointment, and that needs to be identified because all of these have national security implications. So I'm wondering, where is the national security advisor? Where is the political advisor in some of these decisions taken over by the office of the president? Because these have implications for greater problems on the presidency. And that's unfortunate. And that's unfortunate. Yeah.
Thank you. Let me let Mr. Salif conclude on this whole thing. Let's talk about the alignment. We're talking governance now, right? Because you see, with the say the arrest agenda, the appointment, because all these things have to align. I remember you told about the symphony orchestra.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we can't. We are not, the president is not solving problem like you solve this one on this side, you come and solve this one. I mean, everything has to align.
Yeah.
And you have an agenda. You know, do you see that in the appointment of the university? Where does the president want the university to take us? What's going to be this arrest in the University of Liberia? What is the president's strategic thinking that he's calling people to help him get there?
It's a good question. The appointment letter that I read made reference to the arrest agenda. That this aligns with the arrest agenda. In other words, part of the National Development Plan that was just commissioned talks about public investment. So this is to me, again, if the government invests in the university to really revamp it, to transform the university, if this is President Mapayan's appointment is part of sort of that transformational vision, that public investment strategy that the government has in the new national development plan, then it aligns in that respect, right? Because while dividends on investment in education takes time to be realized, it is an investment that is worth making. If a country has a vision that goes beyond any presidency, let's say you have a 30-year vision, you have um, the, we had 20, vision 2030. Some people are thinking 2040 and whatnot. So you're thinking, okay, so where do we want the workforce to be? How competitive do we want Liberian professionals to be? Because the university trains undergraduate people, also trains people in professional fields, different fields, right? It's also a place where leaders are produced, leaders who will run the country in the future. And so all of that thinking, the strategic nature of this appointment, to me, if it was really thoughtful and laid out, and it was not just let's just appoint a president, then there are lines, because then you're thinking about, okay, so this is where we want Liberia to go. These are the caliber of citizenry that we want to raise. We want to be able to train people who are scientists, who are doctors, who are teachers, who are nurses, who are public sector people, who are policy entrepreneurs. All of that, the university has a pivotal role in that. It's a flagship institution, and therefore we're hiring this first-rate academic who has international experience to come help us transform that institution. Because, so you have to answer that, because that's where the strategy, the alignment comes in.
And before you end, Sam Wallison, we got E in in arrest.
Yeah.
This is beyond letters, right?
No, it is.
Okay, because let's say how is that supported in the national budget, education, University of Liberia? Because even
Yeah.
the agenda you were talking about, they say, well, the government is going to come up with 30%, and 70% is going to come from our international partners. I always call them imaginary international partners,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, or they will say, well, we are putting this little money in agriculture because we are expecting somebody else to put money into it, right? So this alignment is just more than a letter in arrest.
Right. It should be more than a letter. This alignment we're talking about is a strategic, long-term uh, public sector public investment alignment. Alignment, strategic alignment, in that we now view the university. We've always viewed, I would like to hope, the university to be, again, a place where we train our people who lead our country. And so we can't neglect it. We have to now invest in it to transform it as a post-war institution. A lot of bad things happened to it. Great professors fled the country. Some have retired. Some are really aged. Some have passed away, unfortunately. Uh, it's a time of renewal, just like it is a time of national renewal for Liberia itself. And so it takes more than a letter. You're thinking people like Dr. Golafale and others. You bring in people who will now put on the strategic cap. We look at the vision, lay out very intentional about where this institution should be in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years, in 50 years. And how does that align with the overall national trajectory of development and modernization?
Can I come in right there, Janet? You know what, Mr. Sally just said. That's something that I've been seriously thinking on for more than a decade. And the challenge we have, you know, in sustaining this kind of vision is political. Every 6 years, we have a new political arrangement, a new agenda, and then people come with their own. Today we have arrest. Yesterday we have propo. Before we had agenda for transformation or the poverty reduction strategy. Just name it and name it. We do not have any strategic national development agenda that is prescribed by law that, look, this is where we are headed in the next 20 to 50 years. Nobody dare deviates. We want to uh, we want to develop our workforce. How do we do that? This is what we intend to do. We give autonomy to our public institutions, depoliticize them. We do not have that opportunity to do it. Every 6 years, if we have a new president, they come with different and change everything almost, and we start from square one. Look
Yeah.
at what has happened at the University of Liberia over the last 4 or 5 years. Politicians have appointed their, bodies
That's horrible.
into strategic
Yep.
areas to influence cash flow, to influence enrollment, to influence graduation without participation. We've seen all the news coming up. How do we depoliticize our higher education institutions, our public institutions, make them autonomous, come up with a national development agenda that tackle these strategic social structures so that no politicians dare deviate from it? That is the only way forward. We leave it like this every 6 years, it's going to be a mess. We're going to come back here again and keep discussing. We've wasted 24 years, 24 solid years. Go and look at the Fender campus. The bricks are falling. The old building. One of them almost fell on my head when I was there in 2021. I reported that to the engineering people, and nobody cares. Nobody cares about anything. But the building is falling apart. We do not have any sustainable maintenance program to continue running it. University is completely bad off. Look at the buildings out there. So again, I
Exactly.
emphasize that the only way we will address and keep all of these social structures like health, education, agriculture, all of these continuing to meet our to meet our needs in the future is that we need a depoliticized national development agenda.
Hmm. Well,
Like it,
hold on, hold on. Let me welcome Leo Lekpele
yeah.
Nupulu Johnson.
Let me get a
Leo
couple
was recently in Labrador to open the learning center there.
of people telling me.
Yeah. Oh, more
The man
quick.
up in a parliament Leo for real. It's a Likpele Nupolu.
The man I know the things.
The man I know the team. Sorry.
All right. So we'll give 5 more minutes to this topic and then we'll close. For our last topic, we just want one response from you. So let me welcome Leo. Leo, this topic is dear to his heart, so he flew from Canada here to talk about it. Leo,
All
let
the
me give
way
you a
here.
2 minutes.
No, thank you, Mr.
No,
Jack.
I just wanted to add, to both Ahmed and Dr. Golofali's point. Alignment of university and its services to the nation vis-a-vis alignment to the national agenda. Our government has clearly failed to convey a national vision of where these next 5 years they want to see Liberia go. We have something called arrest. It's only a bunch of letters for now. There is a development program that is clearly not articulated, and functionaries of government, instead of focusing on articulating this to the public, so that institutions will begin now to get on board. We're spending our time trying to remove a speaker. That's taken us 3 months of doing nothing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Dr. Golofali, when you consider, as an educator, for example, we have a acute teacher deficit. All right, and you wonder how is the College of Education servicing that gap at the national level? The students we're producing, what services are they providing? What are they capable of doing? I heard the previous government talk about bringing in Nigerians. Yet we have a college of education whose job should be to assess, train, and distribute people across the country to fill that gap. We have not done it. We have not seen the university as the vehicle for social transformation. So it's been difficult positioning the university to drive the arrest agenda because we're not there. And like we
Thank you.
said, what you don't have, you can't give.
Hmm.
And that's where these conversations come in. We have to find a way to ensure that a critical institution like the University of Liberia is able to provide and fill the gaps that we have in terms of manpower development. We don't need people going outside the country to learn when you have a community of Liberian experts willing and available to help, you know? And so I'll stop here for now.
Thank you. Lipe,
Yes, sir. The man call it incorrect. The man try this time around. He got it right.
I'm from the quiet area. Don't play with me.
That man is a fruit man, fast learner.
Yeah, no,
He was practicing behind the mic.
yeah. No, thank you. And good to see you, Dr. Golafale, as well. And to see everybody. I think Mr. Jazz said this is close to my heart. And I really have some, call it radical or drastic views on this. Number one, I agree with everybody around aligning the university education with an agenda, but I don't think that agenda should be a government's agenda because there's no way you can depoliticize a government's agenda. Governments come in with politics, and most of the time, not just in Liberia, half of those agendas are propaganda rhetorics that they try to win elections on and continue to use it to perpetrate what they want. I think it should be aligned to the agenda of nation building because nation building transcends government. We already know some of the things that are there. We know food insecurity is a problem. No matter which government comes, we have a problem in that. We know transportation infrastructure is a problem. We know agriculture is a problem. There are certain things that hold true no matter who is there. And I think sound research at the university should not be dependent on what government agenda they are drafting, but the education should be aligned with sound research and instruction that can drive innovation in those areas. Fortunately and unfortunately for us, the Liberian government is very broke. $500 to $800 million government. The university should be raising more money than the entire government budget, in my opinion, period. So we shouldn't be depending on the government that has a $500 to $800 million budget. That's the operational cost of a tiny college, pretty much, in any serious education setting. So for me, the first thing is the university campus should be decommissioned and condemned. Why are we being so wicked to the future generation of the country? That place is not okay for anybody to be inhabiting it. Open defecation on campus, mildew everywhere, mold everywhere. Where is the Environmental Protection Agency? Nobody should be over there. That's a den of diseases sitting, waiting to explode on young people. Here's what I say. As someone who works in the university sector also, university presidents are not hired to come and be administrators anymore. They are hired to be leaders and innovators in driving revenue growth to ensure the university has the quality of academics and professors and researchers that it needs. That is the new trend of academic leaders when it comes to university presidents. And for me, I keep making this argument. Until a university president is able to tell us in Liberia that they are able to divest the university from relying on government budget to run, we're going nowhere. First of all, you want to divest the university from politics, cancel the president permanent visitor status. Why is the president of the country a permanent visitor to the university? You're already the president. Why should we give you some kind of permanent political status for your intervention on the university campus? So for me, I think the first thing that needs to happen, I'm not saying the government should not provide subsidies to the university. I'm not saying no to that. But for the university entire operation to be dependent on the subsidy that comes from the government, in my opinion, we're not going anywhere. So the first thing we need to do with the University of Liberia is to align it to a nation-building agenda. Number one, whenever the University of Liberia graduates students, there should be an immediate economic boost felt. Immediately, when the City University graduates 10,000 students today in 6 months, we should see some of that economic productivity. And we don't need government for that to happen. Because if you are instilling the quality education, the research that is required, I can tell you this. One graduate student can write a proposal or a graduate proposal that can generate $200 million of innovation funds from international bodies around the world looking for where the innovation is. My final point on this, Mr. Jai, I'll turn it over to you. Let's move away from the entrance exam. The archaic 19 woo-woo people writing entrance exam to get into university. Like elementary school, why are we doing that? Higher education should not be to weed people out. It should be to prepare people for success. Why not we introduce a one-year university general prep course at a university that before you are enrolled into your actual degree or focus area, you got a mandatory 1 year to demonstrate that you are prepared to go into that area. And if you are not, then you should not be in the university. Nobody should be writing entrance exam in 2024. To do what with it? I can do.
That's why you do placement, right? To place them where they should be.
Exactly. I can do mini money more than entrance exam and pass. It doesn't mean I knew anything. Some of all who went to school before that, so exams you go right, you really didn't know it. You took your best guesses and you pass. So why are we doing mini money more with admitting people to university in Liberia in 2024 instead of having a robust admission process that includes, even if it is a one semester course, that says this is your prep course to determine your ability. Some universities and colleges do it here, where you get in general arts and science. If you're going into nursing, your performance in general arts and science will then allow you to go into the proper nursing degree program. So for me, I think with Dr. Mampaya, I congratulate her, but I would say this: until Dr. Mampaya is able to raise $25 to $30 million in 24 to 48 months to start the construction of a new university campus and raise the required funding to take the university budget to about $100 million at the very least, it's a joke. She can be the most brilliant administrator. We will end up in the same situation with $32 million. It's impossible to run a university with $32 million in any country in the world.
Thank you. Thank you. That leads us to our, and we are almost out of time, but let me squeeze. I just want your response on this one time, because the IG says the fire that took place at the Capitol building, there is no way that is any electrical fault or anything else besides people criminally setting the fire. Says an arson. People placed some, flammable things somewhere, and then the fire started. And so they have they were going to be talking to some persons of interest, but no arrests have been made yet. Mr. Salif, what's your take on that? Do you think we are any closer in finding the culprits?
Well, I mean, so the IG heads the National Police Authority as a law enforcement agency. From what I read, they did a joint investigation with other joint security actors, including the National Fire Service, and they explained evidence that preliminary evidence that suggests that there were flammable items recovered, and it appears the fire were placed in several positions in the building, and they also investigated the integrity of the electricity production in the building and distribution, and nothing was out of the ordinary. So it wasn't just a blanket statement to me, and they provided some explanation. Now, was that forensic finding? Do we have the resources to really go in that? I don't know. You take the IG for his word based on the reasoning he gave. From when the fire happened, I was really hurt and embarrassed, and the whole day I felt really down, because this is the number one, well, maybe the executive mansion, but that's the first branch of government, the symbol of the state. And it appeared that it was an arson attack from the context. If you just look at the context and the politics, everything that was happening around it. Yes, in Liberia today, almost every day there's fire incident somewhere. There are catastrophic fires that are happening. People are dying, buildings are burning. Whether it's electricity or people are intentionally setting other people's properties on fire. I don't know. It's hard to tell. But this had it smelled like arson to me, given the political context, and the authorities have come up with an explanation to suggest that that's the direction in which we're heading. I think anyone who is suspect, be investigator, due process, yes, but should be arrested and face the full weight of the law. To have the chance to go to court and be prosecuted for this because you're setting the precedent. You're setting some kind of trend. You don't want people to think that no matter who they are, that they can orchestrate, acquiesce, or participate actively in such violence. It's violence really, and commit such crimes. Presumably, if you go with the IG's, you know, uh, statements that he made, people should be investigated. So that's my position. I don't know. I went by what he said and what I read.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Golafale, I mean, this time politics everywhere, where even investigations, you see the politics of it. In fact, the people that were called in first, and even it goes to the judiciary, or first when it goes to court, you will see politics, even at the level of Supreme Court. That you see that, and you talk about the 6 years. So after 6 years, another government can come in and just overturn whatever the other government did. So, I mean, how do you look at the future of
You
this
didn't go.
investigation? Where do you think it's going?
Simple answer: nowhere.
Hey, man.
I don't want to waste my time on, you know,
You may say you get no analysis, but you
yeah,
know
because the culture of, practicing Liberia is just frustrating. We've seen over and over investigations go nowhere because once there's some political alignment, of course there are people with political interests aligned to this. It's either going to be, uh, I don't want to say either. It's going to go nowhere at the end of the day. Even when people are arrested, they're going to be at the end of the set free. Look, yeah, one of the things I listened to Leo, making some very important points, and I think if people are listening, I'm not sure this they're listening with their ears and they can take some of these points and see how we can, look at them more in deeply look at it and see where we can go as a nation. The nation building is I've uh I've raised this concern about how we can build a nation, and this is my perspective. I think in everything affects things like being professional in investigations. Our police, the IG had no business talking about something that he had no expertise in, and I try not to talk about that fire incident because I'm not a fire expert, right? So you have to stick within your expert area and speak to it because that brings miscommunication and confusion, and it impacts the credibility of any you know conclusion of this investigation. That's the reason I say it's going nowhere.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
and part of this whole nation building, my perspective is that unfortunately we wasted 24 years of our time, you know, and not building a nation, only building our political capital after every 6 years. Now we have few more years to election, and I bet you everyone is concentrated on that election. They're not concentrated on anything sustainable. It's about being reelected or who's going to run on a ticket. I bet you nobody in Liberia running government now is focused on sustainable development. They're focused on, am I going to be reelected? I have to do something to gain political capital. Now,
Mhm.
let me close up on this. I have argued this over and over. I was at a conference before some more than 10, 15 years ago in Liberia where they had a family planning association. And the only thing I heard people pushing on family planning, birth control, because there was this UNFPA funding,
Yeah.
the United Nations Population Fund, they're funding these things on birth control and all that, educating about sex education. But you say family planning, and you're not focused on restructuring families that have been broken over the years of war. Family is the nuclear of our society. And these families are the ones that are supplying all of the misfits in society. They supply them to the communities. And these people grow understanding and normalizing indecent behavior, corruption. At the helm of leadership, we have these very people sitting there. They've gone through the rough of the society, getting trained to be
normal criminals passing around, and we applauding them. How do you build a nation with this network of people that have come for
Zoko's in
every,
Pixel.
yeah, that have come for every reach of life? That is where we should have approached. We fail to approach these issues. How to restructure our society, looking at family, restoring family values. I come from a background where I respect family values. I know that's where our community is built from. That's where our society is built from. Unfortunately, we did not focus on these things. We only focus on building our political capital to be re-elected
Thank you.
after and coming up with some un, unstructured agenda. We say is going to change the lives of people in 6 years, which is very unrealistic.
Yeah, it doesn't happen. And talking about family, today I watched a video where the journalists were in the graveyard and they asking these people and they are telling you, okay, this person in this hole is jealous. This other person, he's a musician. And I mean, even when I was all the way behind God's back, we didn't even think like that. So we close this hole now, this other hole. And in the city, a major graveyard.
But Mr.
Little-
Ja, why are you going that far? The whole country lives in the slum comfortably. The rich and the poor alike are living in the slum, and everybody's cool with it. Liberia is one of the countries where how you go to certain countries, you have a stretch of a residential complex. That's designed. Liberia has none. In the morning, you wake up, orange mini here, Lone Star mini here, right underneath your window, no matter where you are. The president's house junction is a squatter's market. You can stay in the squatter's market and throw a stone in the president's yard. Like, this is how bad the situation is. But when you say it, people think you are actually criticizing. And I will say this to you, Mr. Ja. You see, somebody said something to me I remember very well, that the number of people that we call stupid and crazy in Zogo are increasing. So pretty soon, when one of their own Zogo run, they will have enough votes to win an election. Very, very soon, because of a democracy of majority that we are in. So the fundamental problem that we have is this. We've gotten a bunch of people over us who have convinced themselves, honestly speaking, Mr. Jada, it is not possible. So they're no longer trying. I don't think they may be bad or whatever, but I think our governors and leaders of the day have convinced themselves. How can you go to the Ghanaian inauguration, Mr. Ja? See the level of organization and sophistication that happened there. Then you're not crying for what happened in January at our inauguration. How is that not cognitive dissonance, in my opinion? So we have a bunch of leaders who have convinced themselves that we are not capable, that it's not possible for us to achieve any level of excellence. So as a result, they are not even trying. They're not even making an effort to begin with.
Let's just play into that. So that brings me to the IG comment. Saki says it's not going anywhere. Where do you think it's going? The Capitol Hill fire.
I don't think it's going anywhere. I don't think the country has the capacity, nor the expertise, nor the ability to investigate the fire of that.
How about the willingness?
Or the willingness, even the political will. I don't think it even, first of all, Mr. Ja, if they were seriously going to investigate that place, that building should have been cordoned off with no access until the entire building is swept. Every single room, every single floor for any evidence or for any indicators. That whole building nobody should have been working in the building. You investigating a building. The people still going there to work every morning, Mr. Ja. If somebody actually burned it down, they have enough time to cover their tracks. They have enough time to sweep all the evidence that was actually there if they did. So I don't know how you're going to investigate a fire in the building that the very next day the people were there back to be working there all in the building. So for me, I feel sorry for the IG and everybody else that's involved. I don't know what kind of investigation is going. I'm pretty sure they know, but I doubt that they have been given the environment or the tools nor the will or political will to be able to properly investigate and come up with a conclusive analysis of what really happened. The building was being accessed the very next day after the fire. People were going back to work. So what they are looking for, I don't know. It's been contaminated a long time ago.
But even what the IG is saying today, he said that on day one.
Yeah.
Like it was some medicine man.
Yeah.
Well, let's hear from Dr. William on the alleged Arson attack.
Well, like all previous speakers have said, there are too many instances of a compromise, especially on the part of the Liberia National Police, that borders on mediocrity, non-professionalism, uh, and politicization as well. I haven't followed the incidents in the lead up to the burning of the Capitol, uh, where I, the police director, several actions would have been taken. One, the Capitol would have been policed, effectively policed, to ensure a sense of normalcy in the building. Um, Police officers should have been, a form of surveillance should have been instituted in the lead up to the burning. The president's visit to the Capitol on the day that this thing was happening, but everything else that led to it, that occurred, the police withdrawal of support for the speaker and all that, their involvement in that process actually compromised their role and credibility in the entire process. So, like the previous speakers have said, would this investigation go anywhere? I am not sure. Again, it's a function of police expertise. They do not and have not shown uh, the level of knowledge in terms of the investigation. After yesterday, we're still hearing people of interest. This evening, however, we've heard that several people have been arrested from the speaker's office, uh, Representative Billeter's office. These people have been arrested on what basis? And if they are, could those bases be held up in the court of law? So much so that we don't have the state prosecutors begging for time and looking for evidences here and there. So I'm not sure how far this is going to go. Just like many other cases the government has undertaken, they've gone nowhere. Again, we've gotten so used to mediocrity, it's become a normal in our system, so much so that we're not pursuing excellence.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, in our courts or anywhere. But I also just want to use the opportunity to congratulate Leo on his investments in the country. I think that I've never met you, but we follow what you're doing, and it's pretty good. Uh, we applaud you for that.
Remember. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Tough Talking Thursday. If you want to be part of the conversation, we have just 3 minutes for calling 605-313-6004. The code is 791-403#. While we wait for our callers, let's go to our Tabata session. Almost every day, there is some Tabata going on in the country. Tabata is a crude speaking word meaning nonsense, complete foolishness, garbage. Leo, what's your Tabata of the week?
My Tabata of the week for me now was a press conference with, Dr. Conte, where he said the $32 million budget, they increased it to 42 or 47, I think, then the university will be run. For me, that's really Tabata, because I've still been waiting for somebody to tell me exactly how much money does it cost to run UL at its optimum. I haven't heard that price tag yet. For somebody to really tell me, say, if we raise 500 million, then the university will run. So for me, to be guessing amounts of money like that, I call it Tabata without any evidence to actually support how you come up with the numbers. For me, that was my Tabata for the week. You're muted, Mr. Ja.
Dr. William, your Tabata of the week.
Well, I think it comes from the office of the president. I think the president has just set himself up for failure and greater challenges with his appointment at the university. With no bias to her, it's just the enormity of the challenges at the university that the presidency is aware of and will select to bring in an innocent woman. And I say innocent in terms of the enormity of the tax without the requisite political changes and reforms as needed at the university. I think they've set her up for failure, and by extension, the presidency for ridicule at the end of the day.
Thank you. Mr. Salif, your Tabata of the week.
Mine, it sounds trivial, but it's real serious. in the context of just the nation itself, right? I saw a video where a police officer was making a traffic stop. Yeah, and made a traffic stop. Whatever happened, the way he saw to exert his authority was to jump on the hood of the vehicle in order to really stop the driver from moving further. And as he jumped there, the driver proceeded to drive away. And he was there holding to dear life, and the driver kept speeding away, you know. People were laughing, but that's serious because police officers are symbols of state. Anywhere you go, the first people you meet at the airport, maybe immigration officers, people with uniforms, the badges, the symbols of the state, that's the authority right there. It tells you, okay, I'm dealing with the authorities of this society. In the street, you're driving the traffic, police, and law enforcement. These are the first street level symbols of authorities in any society. For a motorist not to respect that, so it just speaks volume about the society, really. It made me sad. It looked funny, but it was also sad.
Yeah, thank you. And I don't know, for some reason I thought that was an old video. Saki, what's your Tabata of the week?
I'm not sure I had any topic of the week, but I think I read something that may be old news. I read something about MCSS, reforming schools with chairs. I'm not sure if just by, or supplying corrugated chairs, it's a sign of reform. I just think it's a tabata that people do not understand what reforming institution is or schools.
Reform.
It's just something to reform their pockets, because I saw that one chair costs 50 some odd dollars, which is unrealistic. And that's my tabata of the week.
Okay. What lesson or Tabata you can sit down? my Tabata of the week is the Unity Party Youth League press conference.
That was a good one today.
My begin Jusu wanted to share. Jusu since he graduated now, he enjoyed money in fact. But
I didn't see it, but what's the summary of that press conference?
Another group came to say, you forgot about all, you're not having nothing.
Yeah. So the group said there will be no press conference because visitors have hijacked their revolution and has taken all the lucrative positions and they got nothing.
My God.
they got the job. Then it may surprise you that our colleague Sam Waller said, all your talk here, he said, my Tabata of the day is finally opposing the hire of the new U.S. president based on U.S. citizenship, while they themselves live and work in U.S. Can't make this stuff up. If this is not Tabata to you, for Sam Waller to watch this show and come up with this.
And come up with that? No, I'm about to say, which show was Sam Waller listening to?
Yeah. So if this is not Tabata, then I don't know.
Sam Waller, this is the real Tabata.
This is the real, yeah.
The real Tabata.
The Tabata of Sam Waller not listening. Maybe, I don't know.
And he didn't even hear Saki campaigning for this woman who worked with this woman, know her personally.
Exactly.
And then everybody says she's U.S. citizen.
U.S. citizen. What does that have to do with anything?
Yeah. But gentlemen, thank you. That will end our discussion. Let's go around the room.
Dennis?
No
one on the phone? Okay.
Yeah, no, I didn't see any call out. I mean, they agree with all of you. They agree with all of you. So let's from Leo to William to Saki and then Mr. Salif. You're closing. Let's use 48 seconds each.
I just want to say sustainable funding is not a luxury to higher education, it's a requirement. So the University of Liberia, I've argued, in fact, should be turned into a technical college or a technical university and rebuilt from scratch. I think we keep hanging on to this illusion of what UL was before the war, the great institution that it was, and correctly so. But the war came, we damaged it, we broke it down, we chakla everything. And then we came back and pretended like we can just continue from where we stopped by just going like that. We can't do that. I think the university needs to be dismantled and rebuilt from a scratch. And one of the things that should be done, all these foreign governments, China, United States, $10 million scholarship, $5 million scholarship. Why are we sending our young people out of the country in droves on scholarships, not telling this foreign government, you get $10 million, build us one college, give us 5 faculty for 5 years that can help us develop it right here and educate thousands of young Liberians instead of you paying $20 million to take 300 Liberians to China to learn on technologies that when they come back to Liberia, they look like zombies. They are not able to function because they come back to a society that cannot correlate to the type of quality education they got over there. So for me, I think the University of Liberia should be taken to a technical college or university. And people think it's a demotion. No, it's not. It's reflecting where the university is. If we can't fund it to be a university, then it's unable to provide any type of quality education, period. We cannot keep deceiving. It's the greatest deception ever to be running a university where you're not even giving a proper college education and you're calling it a university. We are deceiving generations of young people. Take the university back to where it should be. It will make some people serious. When Liberia loses official prime university, UL, to a technical college status, maybe it will shake some people to their core to start working hard for us to get it back to a university status. You can fake it to make it. Right now, UL is faking it to make it.
Dr. Williams.
I couldn't agree more with Leo, except that the devastation, infrastructure devastation that you speak about is national, not just the University of Liberia. And we cannot sidestep all of our institutions only because they're not where they should be. I totally agree with you. The UL isn't where it ought to be. But those of us, even during our time, who passed through those walls and are where we are today is because we were able to pass through those walls. Saki is today a professor. He's making a name out here. His foundation is those very walls that he passed through. I think we can build up on what we have. It takes a lot of political commitment and will on the part of government to not only relinquish some of the hold, the stifling hold they have on the reins at the university and its development, but also in terms of the enabling environment that will nurture the quality of leadership necessary for attracting the kind of funding, for attracting the level of innovation, driving the sort of change that's needed, not just at the university, but nationally. We've not had that. Most of our previous presidents, including this very one, have seen the university as a pepper bush through which uh, their political agendas can be perpetuated. And we think, for me, this government, more than any other government, ought to begin to spend more time in strengthening the structures that will render the country more viable than to spend time looking for yellow machines and building skyscrapers where they're not, where we don't need them. I think the focus needs to be come back to the drawing board. What are the deficits, political, structural, economic? What are those structures that are needed and what policies need to be put in place to help and instill? I hear Leo talk about basically legislating development. That can only happen if we have a national framework established to ensure that successive governments can come and work within those parameters. Until that is done, every 6 years there's going to be a new framework by the new government, and they're going to exploit it as best as possible along political lines. And so I think this government needs to go back to the drawing board, be more strategic, be more mindful in all that they do in terms of, especially in terms of their appointments, which isn't helping us at all. I mean, for the last close to 1 year now. We've suffered. Saki talked about 24 years of setback. If we add this year into it, that's 25 years in setback. We got to do it better. We can do it better. There are Liberians who can make it better. We just need to find them and stop looking within the political landscape. There are Liberians out here who can do and do it well beyond the mediocrity that we're experiencing. You look at the capital
Thank
and
you.
see the people representing us, you wonder, where are we? Especially us, the educated people. Where are we? Why are we where we are? And how can we make a difference? I mean, this is one opportunity to help, hoping that people are listening, but we have to do more than we're doing now. You
Well,
know, we have to do more.
but quickly, Josh, I was 9 years old when I heard that speech that we need to build on the foundation to make the university better. I got children and my children are all grown up. When is the question, do we keep deceiving all of our young people while we say we will make it better, we'll make it better? We lost 24 years. Dr. Golafali just said it. Will we say that for the next 24 years again? So we got to take
Well,
some drastic actions.
it's a
Sure.
function of leadership, Leo. It's a function of leadership, and that's what we've been lacking for the last 24 years. That's why I walk in because we lack leadership. I go back to nine. I
Are
grew up in
you are
Monrovia,
you
19.
hopeful that we will get it in the next 10 years? Do you think so?
I think this government will perform. If they don't perform well, this country is gonna be so desperate
But do
for a
you
leader.
do
We
you
will
think it
find
will?
one.
Do you think it will so far?
I think we will find a leader in the next 10 years. I know so. The
Okay.
likes of you, myself, Saki, Ahmed, Dennis, and many others who are today troubled by what they see are going to be riled up to find the best leader for this country.
The
We're not going to
political
sit.
cartel will not agree.
So we are
Well,
waiting the next six
Hold
well,
on,
years.
Saki. I want you to give your closing.
Yeah, so we wait the
yeah,
next 6 years.
yeah.
I I just want to say this out to. I hope President Joseph Boakai listens to this show and let him remind himself how long he has been in leadership because we are tired of excuses. You know, the new president has been appointed. We expect maximum support from the government. As Leo said, I strongly agree with him. You have to increase the budget of the university to a realistic amount. We need to stop joking with this 16 million just to pay faculty or when they go on strike, then you quiet them with their salary and then you forget about what our students, our young people are getting from the classroom. It's completely disheartening. And President Boakai, this is a challenge to you and your government. You've been in government for long, and I strongly believe that you have a vision to transform the University of Liberia. That's why you've brought in a visionary person in Dr. Mapaya and her values, her experience, and that of what is currently existing at the University of Liberia. I'm sure those are things that she's going to tap into, and also with the shared responsibility of all of the stakeholders at the university. That includes the faculty, the students, the faculty senate, the board, and the government. I strongly believe she's going to succeed, but it depends on everybody's involvement. And one thing I want to end up to say is that the faculty need to focus more on academic and leave this politics alone. In the faculty chat room, I've emphasized that. Look, gentlemen, let's talk about what you are teaching in the classroom. But every day is about somebody's salary or somebody appointment, somebody's being appointed or some personal attack. There's nothing academic in nature I've heard them talk about.
It's
Even
the
I
politics that
sometimes,
pay.
sometimes
Academics
I,
don't pay.
yeah, I sometimes propose, hey, gentlemen, let's talk about how to develop a teaching plan, how to develop your teaching philosophy. Nobody expresses interest. People are just concerned about what goes in their pocket. Again, I reemphasize President Joe Buckeye, stand up strong. There's no excuse if there's failure, which I don't want to see. You've been in government for so long, and please make sure your experience should reflect reality. Thank you.
Mr. Salif, you can take us home.
Oh, thank you. It's been a very uh, robust conversation. I've learned a lot from my colleagues here, fellow panelists. Thank you, and your congratulations as well. That's why we all should strive to do impact. We don't just talk; we talk and do, and really, bring about change. What I've heard and read. On social media and this discussion tonight, for me, it's really we're calling for national renewal and radical transformation of the university, because the university is a core foundation that supports national transformation, national renewal, and nation building. And so I hope that Dr. Marpan's appointment is really a beginning of a serious investment. Yes, it's true. Elio, the university is just low subsidies from the government. It's not ambitious. It's not anything. We need to disabuse ourselves of being comfortable with nothingness. We just say we have small, small, small. Someone said to me, an American friend who came to Liberia and I was working with him, he said, why everybody say small, small? Why don't they say big, big? This is to even a small, small thing. Idea is like we're comfortable with settling down, accepting mediocrity, accepting the status quo and where we are, and so I too was moved by the Ghanaian presidential inauguration. It was choreographed, it was curated, it was an African pride. I'm like, whoa, this is. I watched the entire thing. I started. I thought maybe I could just then move on to what I was doing, but I sat there and just enjoying being African and watching an African president being inaugurated. And then we do have people. you know I say here on this show, I've said it many times, that we have a people's problem. People think that I'm saying we don't have people. No, we do have people, but we've struggled in trying to work with ourselves, work with one another, and really be ambitious, and look at what we could become if we really open our minds and hearts, and believe that we could be what a nation ought to be. So what I'm hearing is a clarion call for national renewal, for radical transformation of the University of Liberia. I hope that this is the beginning of that. Some of us stand ready to contribute, to support, and we hope that the new president will get the support she needs to get a job done. We're looking forward to what she brings, and the where the university will go next.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you for tonight. I want to thank our viewers for watching, those who commented, and even those who will watch later. Always focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Tomorrow, join us same time for Friday night debate, and we're going to be debating the issues. Until then, we're going to close with a song that says, whether you think Dr. Mapanya is the best thing to ever happen to the country, or you think otherwise, we are all Liberians. Let's do our very best to make our country the glorious land of liberty. Have a good night, and God bless you.
Thank you.
We are